Hi, I'm Gary White for Central Kentucky Television. I'm here with Matthew Mattingly, who is starring in our Central Kentucky outdoor shows on our fishing programs. We got to go to some different lakes locally. Now it's the middle of summer, and you've been fishing all summer, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And you've had some tournaments that we're going to get to hear about. We're going to get to see what's kind of been working with you and with regards to all of your lures and everything. And also, we have a trophy here that we need to talk about, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a minute.
Okay, sounds good. So, tell us, what's been going on?
I've been fishing a lot of tournaments. I've been out there actually teaching myself different things. Fish at least one tournament a week. Been working a lot. I fished 3 different circuits this year. Like I said earlier, I fished the Walmart BFL series, the Bass Fishing League. I fished the FLW College event, that's over now. We fished 2 of those, and I actually fished a amateur series on Green River Lake where we qualified for the year-end championship on Kentucky Lake already. So it's been a pretty productive year so far.
Congratulations.
Won a little bit of money and try to get a little bit better at it.
That's right. That's good, right?
yeah, that's always
And you're doing
plan.
something you enjoy doing.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. This is my passion. I'm blessed I get to go out and do it.
That's fantastic. So, tell us about your trophy here.
Okay, I actually just went to Old Hickory Lake in Gallatin, Tennessee. Got back, I think it was a week or so ago. Anyways, went over there. I fished as a co-angler in the BFL series.
Okay, tell us, what is a co-angler?
A co-angler is the guy that's in the back of the boat. You have the boater or the pro, actually, they call them pros. They fish in the front of the boat. And the co-angler actually is in the back. You can't fish past the steering wheel or anything like that. So you're just limited to the back of the boat. More or less just to get out there. It's a cheaper way to get out there. You get to fish with somebody that's a little bit better than you. My main reason is I get to pick up a little bit from each guy I fish with. You know, they're all from different parts of the country. I fished with a guy who actually wasn't from this country in the first tournament. He was actually from Denmark and moved over here to Tennessee. And then the guy I fished with on Old Hickory, he was actually from Murfreesboro, so he was only like 40 minutes away.
Okay.
So he got to fish the lake a lot. But the co-angler, you know, you're in the back of the boat, you know, it's half the price as the boater, but you still get to go out there, you get to compete. It's just as hard to win anything as a co-angler, or even harder because you have to fish behind someone. So, I mean, it's a good deal. I advise anybody, if you want to get better at it, go do the co-angler thing. It's a blast.
Well, I assume, or I would think, maybe sometimes the guy in the front kind of riles them up, because like when we were doing your show, you were like trying to get people getting the fish going, and then you kind of go back over it afterwards. So they might get it going, and then the co-angler can come along and get what he got riled up, right?
Yeah. I mean,
if you're lucky.
Yeah. A lot of times on like ledge fishing and things like that, you want to get a school that, you know, a lot of fish grouped up together. That's what we call a school. You want to get them fired up. You know, once one hits, the rest of them will get active, and a lot of times that benefits both the guys in the boat when you're doing the boater co-angler thing. So it is kind of fun, and it helps out a little bit too. Okay,
cool. So you were in that, and that's where you got your trophy?
Yes, it was in Gallatin, Tennessee, like I said, Old Hickory Lake. It's an awesome lake. There, we actually fished past Johnny Cash's house. He's got
oh, really?
Yeah, he had a house down there. There's all kinds of country music stars. You can see there's one that's like a great big castle. But anyways, the
who's in the castle?
That's a good question. I want to meet him.
Look that up. Right? Exactly.
But anyways, you know, we went down there. I actually got off work to practice for 2 days down there, and we, you know, absolute blast in practice. Caught, you know, plenty of fish. Had a good pattern going, and we were actually catching them deep out on ledges. You know, this time of year, that's where the cooler water is down low on the ledges, a little bit deeper water. That's where the fish are going to be grouped up. So we had a solid pattern in practice, and I went out tournament day, fired up, ready to go. And conditions are completely different in practice. It was hot, muggy, just about like it is today. I mean, it was, you know, the sun's beaming down, and that's really what you want on those ledges because it positions them. Well, actually, in the tournament, it was overcast. It was cool, you know, like 78, 80, you know, right in the mid-80s there. So cool to compare to practice anyways. So we went out there, conditions completely changed, and the ledge bite just died. I mean, it was completely different.
Yeah.
But what it was is my boater caught a few shallow in the morning, and he wanted to go out to the ledges in the afternoon and try to catch him a little bit bigger fish. So what happened was we hit this one ledge, he caught some good fish in practice, and we didn't catch anything. Well, anyways, we hit the sweet spot coming back. The sweet spot's got like rocks and things like that, as to where the rest of it's got mud. So the rocks is where they're gonna be. So we hit the little sweet spot, and all of a sudden I felt, and I set the hook, and that rod just bent over double. And about the time I look up, there's like a gorilla on the end of my line, and it scares me to death. And I'm sitting there, I'm trying to keep cool, and I tell my boater to get the net, and like he is tore up. I mean, he's like missing the fish with the net. And I was like, oh my God, please get this thing in. But anyways, it was a 6.5 pounder, and I ended up getting big fish of the tournament with it. I beat all the pros in that tournament with the big fish. Yeah, it was fun. I got to get up on the stage and things, got on the internet, and actually got streamed live. Got a trophy, got a check, so it ended up being a good experience. I loved it.
Yeah, checks are always good, right?
Yeah, checks are always good.
So you were saying that you went out, there goes the wind's out here.
That's okay.
So you were saying that you went out in the morning and then you decided to go back out again in the afternoon, right? Don't you do in that story?
No.
That was when you were practicing.
Yeah, that was in practice.
Because everybody fishes at the same time, right?
Yeah. Everybody fished from like, I think it was like 6 to 2:30. I think was the actual time. Tournaments have time limits, and that's the time you're supposed to be on the water.
Okay.
So yeah, you're not allowed to leave the boat during tournament hours.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah, you gotta have your chip in by the end of the day. That way, make sure you're not late. Everybody fishes the same amount of time. Keep it fair across the playing field.
Are there judges like boating around while you're out there too?
No, but the co-angler boater thing, it kind of keeps both guys in check. That way, nobody cheats. Nobody wants to cheat. You got some guys out there that will, but most everybody's pretty honest. Right. But that's just a good way to keep everybody honest, is to put you in a boat with somebody that you don't know. They tell everybody the rules ahead of time. That way they know to report anything. And if you don't report anything that the guy did wrong, then that comes back on you too. So okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you brought some of your lures here with us. Are any of these the ones you use to get your 6.5 pounder?
Absolutely. This one right here is a D&L Advantage. It's actually I have a 1/2 ounce version right here, but that's exactly what I caught the fish on the ledge. We were sitting in about 20 foot of water, casting up to 13, 14, 15 foot. Okay. And it's a great bait to get down there. Like I said, it's just a jig. I got a Dirty Sanchez.
Show it to the camera there,
I've got a Dirty Sanchez color right now. The one I actually caught the fish on was actually a peanut butter and jelly color. But that bait, it really gets down there. It's a good crawfish imitator, and it's a great all-around bait, and that's what I actually won the Big Bass Award on.
Okay, cool.
It's got a good mustad hook in it, and it's handmade out of actually Somerset, Kentucky. So I know the guys that make them, so it's a really good. It's a really good company.
It's Kentucky proud.
That's right.
Okay, so this is the one that you got your big fish with.
Yes.
And what kind of fish was it? Was it a bass?
Yes, it was a largemouth bass.
Okay, cool. Now, what else have you been using for? Are these the same ones?
No, this is actually another D&L jig, but it's something that's been pretty productive lately. It's actually a 3/4 ounce D&L football jig. Now, the difference between the football and the regular Advantage right there is the Advantage is more like a flipping style. I cast it a lot. You can use it as a casting jig. But what the football is for is like if you have pea gravel that turns into chunk rock, or you have, like I said, that one sweet spot. Like I use the football to find the sweet spot on the ledge, because you slowly drag it across. And that football, where it's got the oblong shape, it goes down through there and comes across those rocks and rocks back and forth. And you can actually feel the pea gravel. That's more of like when you find the pile, you want to soak the jig in it, but this is to help find it. So this is kind of a search tool. This is kind of a search tool, and that's after you find it. So this has been pretty productive. I've caught a few fish, quite a few fish actually this year on it, and done pretty well. I've hit some tournaments over at Green River, lately, and I've really caught some good on ledges on the 3/4 ounce D&L football. So, and I always match the hatch and use a little kind of natural colors like that. It's kind of watermelon or green pumpkin.
Did you say match the hatch?
Match the hatch. When I say match the hatch, what I'm basically saying is you see the different forage in the lake. Like some lakes, the main forage would be bluegill. Some of them would be crayfish, and some of them would be like gizzard or threadfin shad. There's a little bit of difference between each one. And when I say match the hatches, I'm going to use something that's as close to that as I possibly can get. So if I'm using something that's bluegill colored, I'm going to have something that's got green pumpkin. It's going to have a little purple in it. It's going to have that chartreuse, because if you the little chartreuse are yellow on their bellies and things like that. Or if I'm going to go for crayfish, like in the springtime, like we did over at Green River earlier in the year, I'm going to use a bait that's more green pumpkin, and it's got some orange in it, because if you look at a crawdad in the springtime, they've got more orange in the pinchers. They got a little blue on the bottom. You're going to use something that imitates it. You want to get as close to it as you can.
Okay, so you're actually trying to lure them with
yes
what they think is another fish.
Yeah,
or whatever
they're
they
just thinking it's an easy meal going by. You know, it's just kind of waving a Papa John's pizza in front of your face. You know?
Okay, that's good. That makes sense.
Yeah,
See?
yeah.
Learn all these great tips when we talk with Matthew here, right? Exactly.
That's exactly right.
Riley came out to learn some tips too, right? So what are these other two that you got here?
Okay, this one has been really productive here in the summertime. It's a creature bait. It's actually a Berkley Chigger Craw Crazy Legs. It's got a lot of different appendages on it. Berkley makes a good chigger craw. It's just a crawdad imitator. But lately they've put these little extra appendages on the front, kind of like a brush hog or something like that. And when it comes through the water, all those arms are moving back and forth. And this time of year in the summertime, they've actually seen so many jigs. They've seen crankbaits. They've seen worms. You got to throw them something a little bit different to entice them. You know, you got to be a little bit different and show them a different view. So that's kind of what I do with the creature bait. Catching a ton, going over to Springfield, Willisburg, go over to Fagan, Sportsman, all these local lakes, tear them up. I mean, they've been eating it like crazy. So that's one of my big producers right now.
So do you find as the season wears on that the fish are getting smarter and realizing?
Yeah, they absolutely do. Like in the springtime, I can actually tell you, I'll use heavy line in the springtime, 17 to 20 pound test. And as the year progresses, you have to go smaller and smaller because they can see that line. They get used to it. And you have to sometimes go to smaller profile lures like a football jig, like a drop shot, or something that's a little bit different. You have to adjust with the fish. They get smarter as the year goes on. And kind of over the wintertime where nobody fishes, they get dumb again. So in the springtime, you can use those big lures again. You can use the heavy line, pull them out, flip and pitch. But you kind of got to adapt with them as the year goes on. And that's a real big thing.
Okay. Now, how about this really colorful one there?
That's actually one of my favorites as of late. I actually went to a tournament on Green River last night. It's a Berkley, it's a Rapala DT16. It's awesome little lure. It's actually just a crankbait. You can see it's got 2 treble hooks. Do not stick your fingers on those, super sharp. But the DT16 stands for it dives to 16 foot. That's kind of where my fish have been lately, 16 to 20 feet deep. And it's a real good search tool when there's a lot of shad around, throw it in there. You know, it's a real good shad, bluegill imitating lure. I've got parrot color right now. It's kind of a blue back with a chartreuse belly. Imitates bluegill and shad both really well. So a real big tip with the crankbaits, if you're going to fish deep ledges, is you want to get down. You want a crankbait that'll get down there and kind of hug the bottom. You want to bounce off things. If there's a stick here, you want it to bounce off, because a crankbait is a reaction bite. You know, they basically get scared when something like that swings by their face. It's like having a bee come by your face and you're going to swat at it. It's the same concept basically. So if it's going down through there, you want it to bump off and float back up and go back at it. And that kind of floating back gets them and triggers them. So that's been a real big producer lately for me.
Now, it's amazing that, like you're saying, that there's 6.5 pound and all that kind of stuff. They really fight, but this is all that you have connected to it. That's a really that's a strong connection, isn't it?
yeah, that's a
that doesn't just break off.
No. I mean, you got to have good line, change your line a lot. I use no less than 15 pound tests when I'm using the jigs, because I'm down in there in the rocks and I'm beating and banging in the trees. And even when I'm using the chigger craw, I'm going to use something that's 15, 16, 17 pounds. Now with the crankbait, it's a little bit different beast. I use 10 and 12 pound tests with a little bit lighter action rod. Mainly because these sink straight down with the lead on the head, they sink straight down. And then also with this, I'll Texas rig it or put it on a shaky head and it'll go straight down. But with this, you've got to crank it in to get the action to go, and it actually has to dive like this. So the lighter line you use, the lighter action rod you use, the faster it's going to get down there and stay in the strike zone. Because it doesn't do any good if the fish are in 16 foot and your bait's only in 16 foot for 2 seconds.
Right.
You want to get down there as fast as you can. So that's kind of the concept of using the lighter fluorocarbon line, 10 to 12 pound test when you use the crankbaits.
Okay. So these are some tips on the different lures that you have.